Okay, good morning. We'll start. Kalyapan, can you help me with one thing? Did we complete the security part last time?
Good morning, Shankar.
Yeah. So we'll start with the security now.
Yeah, okay.
So in this module, we will see the authentication, the authorizations, levels of security, and how do we implement the host-based access file. When it comes to the security, these are the two steps. One is authentication and authorization. Authentication, it is something like Windows login and Linux operating system login. Okay, so we in the Windows operating system login, whenever you try to connect to the Windows operating system, it generally asks you to type the password. The same thing goes with the authorization. Once you have the authentication, we are trying to grant a permission, revoke a permission. Okay, so that is what the authorization is. So these are the three levels. One is at the server level. In the server level, we have a file that is PGHBA file. Inside the file, we need to add the IP address of a client. It is not something like anyone can come and connect to your machine. That is not possible here. Okay, so you need to add the IP address of a client, okay, or a host name of the client in order to connect to your machine. Now let's say you have 10 databases and 10 users. So out of 10 databases, you want to give access to the 5 database and the 5 users for a specific IP address. So you need to add those 5 databases and 5 users plus the IP address of a client machine, followed by whether you want to ask him to type a password or without password. That is what we do it here. We have implemented the database level and the object level. Inside the database, we have created a database and then granting a permission, revoking a permission. That is what we have done already. Okay, and the object level permissions also we have done. The, inside this pghba.configuration file. Okay, so we have pghba.configuration file, and there is a entries like the trust, reject, MD5, and password. The HBA stands for Host Base Access Control File. Okay, so any changes to this configuration file requires a reload. Now, if I had the username and password, I mean the username, the database name, and IP address of a client, you need to type the password there. And that is something we need to add the details inside this pghpa.configuration file. So the server authentication file is pghba, host base access control file. Once you reload in the sense like it is not going to take a downtime. Okay, reload will make the changes dynamically, and each record specify the connection type, database name, username, IP address of a client. So let me open a paint. I have a I have a server here. So this is my production server. Inside this production server, I have a data. Okay, then followed by users. I have some couple of users here. EDB user one, then EDB user two, EDB user two. I have this plus databases. So in the databases side, I have EDB store database. Okay, and then I also have ecom store database. So and under the database we have EDB user one and EDB user two database, EDB store and ecom store. These are the databases I have. A client is trying to connect. Okay, so there is a client who is trying to connect. Uh, so we have two clients here. One is from the PG admin. The PG admin is basically from a Windows operating system, Windows OS, and we have a pSQL. We have pSQL at the Linux side. This is Linux OS. IP address is defined 192.168.2.1. This is IP address of a client from the Windows operating system. I have a second client from the Linux. His IP address is 2.2. I have a production server. Okay, so I have a production server, something like this, 169.1.120. These guys are trying to connect. The clients are trying to connect. So when they say connect to the IP address, so I can connect to a IP address, but to which database they should connect. This is the database user and the database name. So authentication, this is the first thing. This is authentication, what we are talking about. The client is trying to connect to your server instance. This is authentication. The authentication can be different methods. You can give trust. You can give MD5. Reject. So these are the different authentication methods. Authorization, yeah. So we have something implemented in the previous day class. So this is authorization. Okay. The authorization we use grant and revoke. Consider you are a Linux or operating Linux user or a Windows operating system user, and there are two clients who are connecting to your Windows operating system. One client, when he tries to connect, the Windows operating system, it will basically ask you to type a password. Once he once he authenticates, once he gets authenticated, he will get a access to the operating system, but to what drive, whether it is a C drive, whether it is a D drive, that is authorization. The same way, a PG admin from Windows is trying to connect to the data. Yeah, he is having a authentication. Once you give the authentication, whether he is having a authorization at the user level, that is EDB user one and EDB store database, that is authorization. The authorization is something we have already completed it. Now, inside the HBF file, we need to make an entry. So this is the entries we need to make. Okay, so I'm adding host as a machine, EDB store database, EDB user one, and trust with client IP address. So this is my client IP address. So in the production server, we are adding this. Once we make these changes, it requires a reload. It's a pgctl minus d data reload. Okay, so this is what we have to do. So once we reload it, they can connect. Okay, so I'm showing you in my machine. You try to open PG admin. So there is a PG admin in Windows box. Try to open this. Okay, I added the authentication. This is authentication. Okay, so we are connected to the Linux terminal. Switch user Postgres. pgctl. pg underscore ctl minus t. Cluster name. It started with 5005 port number. And inside this, a cluster in the sense I mentioned it is an instance. Inside this cluster, there is a pghba.conf file. Shift G. Host all. And there is one more parameter change we have to do. If you are connecting from two different VMs, okay, so the listen address, it should be star. If it says localhost, if we add localhost, no one will be able to connect. So it should be star in case if someone is trying to connect to your machine. So once we make these changes, it doesn't require a restart, it requires just a reload. As I mentioned, reload is basically updating the parameters dynamically. Uh, this is the IP address of my Linux server. So if someone is trying to connect to your server, we are switching off the firewall. We have turned off the firewall from my Windows. This is the Windows operating system pgadmin 4. I'm opening it. So you can also open it. Okay, so in your case, the port number will be 5432. My instance will have 5005. This is the password you need to type it for Windows. So we need to click on Add Server. You can see a label called Add Server. Give some name here. Can as the connection IP address of the Linux machine. If you don't have Linux, you just give the IP address of the Windows. Five zero zero. What is the port I told? 5005. Click on save. Password of my Linux server. Click on save. So it is connected here. NSE. The database we have. So at the Linux prompt, just say ps minus e of grep postgres. Increase the font. Okay, you can see this is the Windows client who has connected. Su minus Postgres psql 5005. Okay, so from the Linux server, we are trying to check the client connections. Okay, so one client from Windows connected. pgadmin 4 years connected. So this is how we connect. Okay, so team, you can try now. I'm just show you. Yeah, please try now. Open a pgadmin. Add your IP address in this server. Okay, so there is a pghp.com file. Add the IP address or just say 00 in place of IP address. And then replace trust. You can say all, all. And then you can do this way. Okay, so please try now. Okay, Kalyapan, you need to add, create a user and create a database, add specific IP address and specific database name and username inside PG admin. Okay, one second. I'm adding the details here inside the PGHBA. So that details you need to add in the way I'm showing you, right, in the paint. EDB store or app01 will be a user. In the next thing, like it will be a ecom store or EDB store. And here you just add 00 and trust. Well, what is the username? App01, database name as ecom store, and then IP address or 00 trust. After that, you connect to the PostgreSQL prompt and do a reload. Reload command I'm sharing in the chat panel. I shared you the command. It is inside the C drive, program files, Postgres, inside Postgres data, and there you will find it. C program files, Postgres data. Have shared you the link. So this is the thing, and there is a PGHPA file. Okay. Did you try to add in PG admin? Kalapan, like, did you try adding in the PG admin that specific database name and username? No, no, no. You right click and say add server there. Add server, and there you need to add one more connection. Okay, so this is the configuration. Under this module, we'll see the server configuration file, setting the parameters, connection settings, memory settings, and wall settings. This module is mainly focused on PostgreSQL configuration file. Any changes to this configuration file, unlike HBA requires a reload, this parameter requires a restart. There are some parameter which requires a restart. The statement like select name from PG settings, where context is postmaster, this will give us the list of all the parameters which requires a restart. One way to change this parameter is to edit the postgresql.conf file and make the changes. Okay. So once you make the changes at the postgresql.configuration file, uh, there are few things that you need to focus. One is in the right hand side of the postgresql.conf file, it is written whether it requires a restart or reload. So we need to make necessary action. Once the server parameter is changed, and I want to check the session level parameter, I need to say set parameter name. You can also set the parameter at the user level by editing alter username, set work mem, set maintenance work mem for a specific user. You can also make the changes at the database level. Today, I want to do some kind of maintenance activity on my database, like vacuum full, analyze. I want to do some kind of database activity, maintenance activity. Then you need to say alter database name, set maintenance workman. Once you query those parameters, you need to say show the parameter name. Okay, show the parameter name. It shows you the value, or you can also query that information in the PG settings. This parameter doesn't require, like if I make the changes at the session level, user level, and the database level, parameter changes, it doesn't require a restart or reload. I need to reconnect it. Uh, there is one more level of making the changes. You can use the alter system. Alter system is basically for the server level changes. Either you can edit the Postgres configuration file, or you can just say alter system. So this is the configuration file, Postgres file. Under this configuration file, we have shared buffer, subject to 256. Then we have logging collector. This requires a restart. Save and close. pgctl -d a node restart. Once we restart it, let us try to connect and verify whether the parameter is changed or not. These are the server level changes. I can also make the changes at the user level. First, create some users. Let me try to create a user called NSE1. Create a database DB1. Alter user NSE1. Password is unit. Sorry, the user level changes. Set workmem to 1 MB, 10 MB. Alter database DB1 to 100 MB. All the server level changes are the user level changes are added permanently PG shadow. You can see that information is added here. Yeah, so we have done the changes and we know how to make the changes. We will discuss what to change. What to change, we have connection settings, listen address. This is like a production server IP address you need to give it here. This is not a client IP address. This is a production server IP address. Port number uh, 5432500, whichever is available, that port number you can add it. Max connections, how many users can connect to your server? Okay, so that is max connections. Super user reserved connections, out of 100 connections, 100 max connections, 3 connections are reserved for the super user. So normal users 97, super user 3. Inside the memory settings, we have shared buffers, which is set to 25% of the RAM. Temp buffers, it is for creating a temporary table, it is set to 8 MB. And then work mem, as a developer, if you're doing any kind of sorting and filtering, it requires the work mem to be on the higher side. If you put a low value, it will start spilling to the disk. That is work mem. Auto vacuum work mem, it is for improving the performance of the maintenance activities like auto vacuum, vacuum full. Okay, the performance will be improved. So these are basically for what do you call the improving or parameter tuning, improving the select, insert, update, delete performance. Plus, they're also called as parameter tuning. Maintenance work, ma'am. You as a developer, in case complain that creating an index is taking more time, altering a table is taking more time, then yeah, so you have to use the maintenance work, ma'am, and set this value to a higher so that creating an index will take very less time. I want to set up a online backup, point in time recovery. Okay, then this is the slide which addresses that. Wall level is something like you want to take a online backup, you want to set up a continuous archiving, or you want to set up a replication. Then you need to say wall level to replica. Wall buffers, it is the transaction logs. When you do a commit, the commit happens inside the wall buffers, and that information is written inside the wall buffers area. Okay, so wall buffers is for transaction logs. Okay, so that is what it is. So then we have max wall size and checkpoint. It is basically for addressing the checkpoint when you want to trigger a checkpoint, either size based, that is max wall size, it is 1 GB, and checkpoint timeout, it is every 5 minutes. Okay, either 5 minutes or 1 GB. So this is when the checkpoint is triggered. Okay. Do you have any questions in the security and the configuration parameter? Please let me know.
No, no, Shankar.
Okay, so I'm sharing you one lab exercise. Give me 1 minute. I'm sharing notepad. So this is the lab exercise that you need to do it now. Uh, this is the first statement is at the server level. The second is for the session level. You need to use set. Okay. So here I will just add reference comments. Use a set and so on. Okay, so I added a reference for you, the right hand side. You can accordingly make the changes. Okay. Once this is PostgreSQL.conf file means I already shown you right inside C program files. Then there is a data. Inside the data, there is a PostgreSQL.conf file. Okay, so that is where you need to make the change.
Yeah, Shankar one down.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, please.
Yeah, we have to change it manually, or we have to change it using the statements of PSQL.
There are a few, like if I say PostgreSQL.conf file, you need to change it manually.
Okay.
And when I say a set and alter user, it is making the changes using statement.
Okay.
We will see backup and recovery part. So in this module, we will see backup types, cluster dump, cold backup, continuous archiving, point-in-time recovery. Okay, as with any database, Postgres should be backed up regularly. There are three fundamental approaches to take a backup. One is you can use a logical backup, that is SQL dump. Then there is a file system level backup, continuous archiving. So this is SQL dump, which generates a text file with SQL commands. Postgres provides the utility called pgdump, that is for taking a logical backup. This is not a online backup. Okay, this is just a logical backup what we are talking about. So pgdump is the utility. We have pgdump, we have pgdump all. So pgdump does not block readers and writers. pgdump does not operate with special permission. So pgdump is a utility which we need to execute from the bash prompt. Okay, not from the bash or a C prompt, not inside the Postgres prompt. So we have various different options. We can take a backup with data, only the schema. Uh, then we can take a backup of tables of a specific table. Then we need to take a backup of a table with some specific formats like FT, FP, and so on. Okay, so let me show you that. I have a database called DB1. I want to take a backup of this DB1. Log out. From your C prompt also you can do this, pgdump. Connect to 5005. In your case, it will be 5432. And you want to take a backup of which database? DB1. Write that information to OPT, Postgres. So in your case, it will be -f C drive and give the path like D drive, wherever you want to store it. db1.sql. Okay, so this is how we take a backup. I can also take a backup of a specific table. Just we need to give the table name in my flag. Okay, the flag says that whether you want to take a backup of a single table, single database. Okay, so I'm adding few commands here that you can try it. I want to take a dump of all the databases, not a single database. Then we use pgdump all. You want to take a backup of single database, you can use pgdump. It is all the database. It is a single database. You can take a dump in a tar format. You can take a dump in the what do you call custom format. You can also take a dump in the plain text format. Okay, so these are the different methods I have written. You can try a few of them. Okay. This is not an online backup. It is like a offline backup. I want to take a dump of a single table. Then you need to say pgdump table name. You want to take a dump of schema level. Okay, so you can do this. You can split the database and then you can take a backup. Okay, so this is what I'm adding in the chart panel so that you can try it. So Once you complete this, we can take a, um, I mean, online backup we can discuss, but yes, that will be tomorrow. So this is connecting to a user database name minus C, but yeah, you need to create a table for this. We try to create a table called employee, and should just, you can say, select star from employee. Where do you want to write it? Inside a C drive or D drive, you give the path. Wherever you see this Linux command, you just use C drive. So I want to take a dump of a table. Then you can say pg dump, table name, and give the C drive here or D drive. This is all right. This is okay. So I'm adding these commands. You can put it right. I shown you one way. These are the other different approaches. Once you complete, let me know. Okay, I have shared my screen. You can just check. Okay, team. If you are facing any problem, we'll discuss it tomorrow. You can ignore that one thing what you mentioned, Kariyapan, and follow the other steps. Okay. We'll connect tomorrow, same time. Thank you. I'm disconnecting. Bye.